Hi, everybody. We are group four from section A16 of the design of coffee. My name is Lauren Picardi,
I'm Marcus Cavada.
I'm Annie Cimperman.
and we're going to be talking about our design process for our competition brew.
Right. So a brief overview of how we went about making our coffee. Here's our process flow diagram. We started off with roasting our green beans from the very beginning. And then after roasting it, we set that in a bowl to cool, which we then transferred into a grinder. And from the grinder, we used the brewing process of using a clever dripper. Well, in order to meet the correct amount of coffee needed, we used three clever drippers. And after boiling the water and letting the coffee sit for 6 minutes each, we transferred all the coffee brew into a carafe. And from there, that's when our coffee was done.
For our mass balances, we used the Colombia beans and the Honduras beans. The Colombia beans didn't end up actually being used in our final brew, but the Honduras beans were. So we took 120 grams from each and roasted them. The mass of the roasted Colombia beans ended up being 102.4, and the mass of the Honduras beans was 102.3. When we ended up using our Honduras beans, our mass of water was 1,350 grams, and the mass of water per dripper for Clever Dripper was 450 grams, and we used 90 grams of beans, which left us with a waste of 12.3 grams. And these are some photos. These are some showing us measuring our water and the Clever Dripper coffees. So, like I said earlier, the beans we used were the Honduras beans. When we roasted these, we started with the settings at 999 and we switched them over to 799 after 3 minutes. For our Colombia beans, we kept the roaster settings at 999 for the entire duration of the roast. For our energy usage, we measured the energy while the beans were roasting and while the water was heating. For our Colombia roast, the energy was 0.26 kilowatts per hour. And for our Honduras roast, the total energy was 0.31 kilowatts per hour. Our energy penalty at the end of our entire roast was zero because we ended up going over the limit of 100 or 925 grams of water, which made our penalty zero.
All right, so the total dissolved solids percentage was 1.29, which is average for the brew that we did. And then the percent extraction percentage was 13.64, which is a bit lower than the average, which is typically 18 to 22. And then that is a picture of us brewing our coffee with the Clever Dripper. Here are our sensory evaluations. The three main things that we noticed were that our brew was sweet, it had acidity, and that it was a little bit more bitter than we expected. The sweetness was nice, it balanced out the body of the brew, and it had notes of honey and caramel. Our brew was a little bit acidic, it had hints of citrus, and it served as more of a supporting role in the overall body of the brew. It wasn't overpowering, it just added dimension, which was quite nice. And then it was a little more bitter than we expected. We did have an extraction time of 6 minutes instead of the typical five, which is probably part of the reason why our bitterness was a little bit higher than normal. But it wasn't egregious, it just had a bit of an aftertaste. So overall, our experience in using the Honduras beans and the Clever Dripper as our method of brewing was very successful, and we all as a group enjoyed the taste of our brew, and we're efficient in conserving energy. If we were to brew using the Clever Dripper again, the only thing we'd change is the extraction time. Like I said, the extended time added bitterness. So instead of the 6 minutes, we would probably only extract for 5 minutes in the future. Thanks for watching.